everyone. Thank you. Welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper. Set in 1980s London and directed by Idris Elba, Yardie centers on the life of a young Jamaican man named D, who has never fully recovered from the murder of his brother. After getting caught up in a life of crime, D must choose between his family and getting revenge. Take a look. Everyone put your hands together for Aml Ameen.
Thanks for having me, man. Great.
I like this energy you're bringing me right now.
I love this series. I love it. A lot of my friends have done it. I've been watching, come on. And there's New York out there. New York's like a very sexy city, guys, man. Like, honestly. I know it's rough, but honestly, to a tourist, you're like, oh my God, like, it's amazing. So
honestly, New York's not really rough anymore. It's quite nice.
I mean, rough weather-wise.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, the subway or the tube, the subway, it's a bit mad.
It's disgusting, actually.
I agree with that bit.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
But from an Uber ride, it's perfect.
Well, we are glad to have you. I got to check out Yardie last night.
Oh, man.
And there's so many things that I want to talk about because it is just like full experience. First of all, it is visually really beautiful and the use of color. And
like
it's
this
such
poster, look at that.
Yeah, and everything is so
crazy.
vibrant and it just brings this energy. And then there's the dance hall culture and then we're in Jamaica. I mean, there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning.
Yep.
It's directed by Idris Elba.
Mr. Idris Elba.
And I heard the
little
first
known
time
actor.
that you guys met, you immediately met and then took an 11-hour flight together.
Literally. Sounds a bit funny, doesn't it? But I was on the lift. I was on a lift going from London to LA, which is where I live. And I heard like Aml when I got in the elevator. I was like, who's that then? And I looked and I kept looking up. Idris, you know, the sexiest man alive and all that. Like, he's there. And I'm like, oh, what's going on, Idris? And he hadn't seen me in years since I did a film in England called Kidulthood. And he was like, mate, I just saw you in the Maze Runner. I thought you were wicked. Do you know what I mean? Where are you going? I said, I'm going to LA. He goes, I'm going to LA. We sat next to each other on the plane. Happy accident there. Start talking about our families and the fact that my dad's from the Caribbean. His dad was from Sierra Leone, being immigrants. And then he gave me this book, Yardie, and he said, mate, read it. Get off the plane. Let me know if you want to do the film. And I said, forget that. Yes. I'll do the film. I'm a big fan of yours.
Wait, did you read the book on the flight?
I read the script on the flight.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie and say I read the book on the flight. But I read the script on the flight, and I was immediately just charged with this kind of. As an actor, you don't get to play something so multifaceted, so layered all the time. You know, it would immediately remind me enough of Goodfellas, immediately remind me enough of City of Gods, and so I was raring to go. And then just the icing on the cake. If you turn over the original book of Yardie, I turned it over. It says it is the Jamaican Scarface. And guess who was 2 rows in front of us? Al Pacino. I shit you not. It was the craziest flight of my life. That's brought me here today, so I'm very I love telling that story.
Yeah, that's fate.
Yeah.
I mean, this role was meant for you.
Destiny,
basically.
fate, serendipity, throw it all in there, you know what I mean?
So you described it a little bit, you know, as the Jamaican Scarface, but for people who haven't seen it or want to see it, how would you describe this film?
I would say, you know, it borrows from we're big fans of the Italian-American gangster genre. Yeah. And what we loved about that was being able to humanize what would be a gangster, right? And so Yardie is a term in London that people would say about Jamaicans, like Yardie. It was almost a derogatory term. And so we thought, let's go behind, you know, and see what made this guy who he is. It's based on a 1993 novel by Victor Headley, which was a big novel in the UK. And it follows the life of this guy who witnesses his brother murdered when he's 11 years old, can't quite get rid of the trauma. He's grown up by the don of the community in Jamaica. And so it's just like, who murdered my brother? It's the question that bugs him and consequently makes him make some horrific decisions.
Right. And so part of this film takes place in Kingston and the rest is in Hackney.
In Hackney in London, yeah.
But I know for you to get in character, you went full throttle.
You know everything already. I'm gonna leave this interview. You just know it's wicked.
I'm just leading you.
You've done your own work, man.
I'm leading you.
That's wicked.
Because when I read about how you prepared for this role, I was impressed.
So I got off the flight in 2015. Then I was like, okay, the number one thing, Jamaican accent, right? And for Jamaicans out there, my family's Jamaican. They do not ramp when it comes to a dodgy Jamaican accent. They don't want that bobsleighing team thing, cool runnings accents going on. So I said, you know what, let me go and move to Jamaica. And so I moved there for about 3-4 months just before we started shooting. And my auntie Hazel, shout out Hazel, what's up? And my family, they just introduced me to everyone. I got introduced to the Marley family, Sly and Robbie. I got introduced to doing chatting. My younger brother, who's very good at the Jamaican accent, wrote all the lyrics for D in the film. And so I went there, and by the time I came back to London, everybody met me as D. And what that kind of meant was, yes, being in an accent, but it also meant being in a certain frame of mind, surrounding myself with an environment that would continually perpetuate the memories of D. So the whole apartment that I was living in, all the memories were of that. I woke up to the sounds of gunshots, which was my alarm. Stuff like that to just really trigger an authentic experience. And it changes you. I've heard about Daniel Day-Lewis messing around with it and Denzel Washington. I was like, what is this method acting thing? And to really do it, it sticks with you, and it's very deep. And Chantal Jackson and I, who was brilliant in the movie, we wrote letters back and forth to each other as the characters, and that really helped our bond as well for when we'd meet each other in London for the screen.
Yeah, she plays Yvonne, she is stunning to watch.
Beautiful.
I mean, such a moving, emotional experience to watch her be a mother that's kind of defending, and also her being in love with this man who is so problematic. But, I sympathize with her a lot.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know that you guys did that sort of work on the front end.
Yeah, we did a lot of work on the front end, because the love story is the heart of this film. Yeah. It's two love stories for me. It's the love story between Dee and Yvonne, and the woman that could go on to help him make a better life, and the love story and trauma of his brother, and what's gonna be what. So it's a split love story for me, and so I kind of made sure we covered all of those bases. Yeah.
So when you go full method like that, what is the process of coming out of that? Did the cast and crew ever get to meet Aml?
So there's this weird experience. There's this girl that knows me she was my assistant on the film, and she, I would just be like, Aml, we're ready. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll come soon and get me the thing, and whatever it was. And then on the last day, I was like, listen, I just want to thank you so much for this. Oh my God, that's so weird. I was like, yeah, but just want to thank you. She just couldn't get over it. She's like, that's so weird. No, that's odd. And she kept going. I was like, so I think it was interesting for people that had known me, my career, or known me beforehand, But for me as the actor, it takes a while. It does take a while. It takes a while. You have attachments. I enjoyed being D and enjoyed what that gave me. Being, for example, British and English. We're all trapped by our own cultures. So New York has a culture. England has a culture. We're very polite. And Jamaicans, everybody's a superstar. Everybody just looks people in the eyes. They've got no problem looking someone in the eye and talking to them, which is very different for an English person, where we're on our P's and Q's. So those small things have shifted and changed in me, and just giving a fuck less as well, which is something that's very freeing, Which
is something I think we all need to learn to do.
Yeah, man, give a fuck less. Just get them T-shirts made.
I also like saying it like that, give a fuck less.
Give a fuck less. Do it in the accent as well.
I can't.
You know what I mean?
You don't want me to try. It would be really bad. Speaking of accents, in Jamaica, I know that there are rival gangs, and this is something we still see happening. And I read an interview with Idris, and he was saying that there were still rival gangs in this area of Rose Gardens that actually took a ceasefire while you guys were shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very deeply historic, and it's got America and Cuba and Russia all attached to it. There was these two rival factions during the 70s and 80s, well, late 70s, when Bob Marley's around, and he's got this very famous moment when he holds two people hands in the air like that. Well, that's Edward Seaga and Norman Manley, and they were two rival politicians who effectively, what is said, and I say what is said because I wasn't there, was said that these people, they would say, look, if you vote for us, we're gonna service your community. If you vote for us, we're gonna service your community. And so that's how it all trickled down and became this big war. And then, after a while, you hurt my family, I hurt your family. It just keeps going on. And so when we were there, everybody came together because, they were very interested in this Jamaican movie that was going to be more than just one-sided about the culture. There was going to be love. Jamaica looks beautiful in this film as well. And they were very interested in taking care of it. And Idris Elba, big fans of him. And he felt like, a custodian of it because he'd grown up in the environment. And so everybody came together, and then literally we heard, like, I think it was like a week later, someone got shot where we were and died, Someone that was working. I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. But that's a problem around the world. Everybody knows that, right? That's not exclusive to Jamaica.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Hackney, I didn't know too much about that part of London.
Yeah.
So what did you have to learn about the history of that area in order to inform D?
Not much for me. 2 reasons. He's a fish out of water, so he has to be seeing everything for the first time. One of my favorite scenes is when he goes into this club for the first time in the beginning of the movie, and he's seeing how the British Jamaican culture does it, with the dub sounds. And I didn't have to learn much about it because my dad owned clubs when we were kids, right? So and in Dalston, Hackney. And so I would go there as a kid, being ushered out before the real party gets started. And for me, it was such a nostalgic experience to just see how much Idris got the details right, like the sweat on the walls, everybody like blah 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 blah. That vibe just going on. It was so for me, it was like me just going back to a like being my dad's age, or being my dad's age at that time,
Music is a very important character in this film. From the very beginning, from Jamaica to Hackney, it really explores this hip-hop, sound clash, dance hall culture,
Dub
which
culture,
which I didn't know that much about.
Yeah.
And it breathes this whole new life to the film.
Absolutely. It was that was probably the scariest thing for me, learning how to chat, you know what I mean? Yeah. And my brother, who's an artist, Mikkel, he wrote all the lyrics, and so he took me through it, and that was, that was hard. But in the end, I got confident, you know what I mean? Lift up my chalice and it full of percentage. Real bad man, so my gun never empty. Really hard man, me not know about no Yardie. Kill a song boy with my eye known. Bow, bow, still. So I got confident.
Guys, applause for that. That was amazing.
Vibes.
That is not easy.
Yeah, that whole lift up, you lower your voice. It sounds much better in Jamaican, obviously, than lift up my chalice and fill up with sense. It just sounds cooler and sexier, innit? So it was very, I added to my repertoire with that one,
These clubs in the film, were they real places or were they set designs?
They were set, well, one was a real place, and then one was a reimagined set design.
'Cause I wanted to go there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. But come on, you're in New York. You still got those vibes out here still. You got the little hole in the wall things. And that's the thing as well. The film's such an international film because during the 70s, people either went to Toronto, London, or New York. And that's why I feel like New York especially will get it, despite your racial background or cultural background, because like London, it's such a melting pot of different experiences. And so for me, coming here with the film has been the most exciting, next to London, because it's like, you guys get it,
Yeah, we get it, but still, I was watching, and that is a very distinct cultural thing, that I feel like a lot of people are going to want to be a part of after seeing this movie.
But you're not to wine and all that, right? You heard Sean Paul, Dirty Wine, all that. There you go. I know.
A little bit.
I know. When the cameras go off, we're here partying, You saw the boat, you know what I mean?
So what do you hope people take away from this film? What do you think the broader message is? Because you've got crime, you've got action, you've got love. There's a lot of things.
I think the most relatable thing is trauma, right? And that, as an actor, what happens is you can't look at a character without looking at your own life. It just happens. And so one of the things we all relate to in life is trauma, things that happen when we're young, extremely bad or not, that affect our everyday decisions. And sometimes we could see ourselves as a bad guy. I remember there's a line in the film where D goes, really and truly, I'm just a gangster. It's almost as though he's resolved in that fact. And the pull and push between him is like, am I a good guy or am I a bad guy? So I think trauma is something that this will mirror for people. Then just another culture, like enjoying another culture, a vibrant culture that for me has influenced the world. It's a very small island that has had such an impact on the film. And also, Idris Elba's directorial debut, he was so courageous to just like jump out there with something that's quite big, and so much new young Jamaican talent that would probably otherwise never be seen by the world, So those are the things I want to take away from it. And being my mate. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Following the rest of my career, hopefully.
Definitely the trauma part is something that I took away from it too. I think the scene you're speaking about specifically, I really thought was a good commentary on just mental health and therapy, and nobody had really taken the time to sit down with Dee and kind of talk about what had happened. And this elder woman comes in and is like, you know, these things happen to you, but that doesn't define you. And it was this really pivotal moment for him. And you could see he's still struggling internally, but you could tell he had never gotten to process it or even talk about it.
100%. I mean, even for me doing this film, I realize how much you can, if you just push your brain or your mind this way to the right and you keep pushing it. So for example, you know, I would imagine what happened to my brother. I would imagine all the circumstances, and then it started to be a very real thing for me. Do you know what I mean? And so I thought to myself, I end up reassessing my life and going, okay, what are some of the thoughts that are lingering in my life? What am I saying to myself that is, you know, that I need to challenge, you know, to make myself a more healthier person? So definitely it's a mental health kind of theme without getting too kind of heavy on it, you know? Yeah.
Well, that was a takeaway for me and something that I think a lot of people are going to connect with in addition to the music and the vibrant culture and just everything else that this film offers.
Yeah, man.
So well done.
Thank you very much.
I know we do have a question from the audience before we get out of here.
Boom.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I was just curious what the most surprising thing was working with Idris Elba as a director.
Many things were surprising about working with Idris. As a director or just in general?
I guess in general.
In general, okay.
Let's say director first and then in general. Why not?
Okay, so director-wise, the most surprising thing was how, because, you know, he's been doing acting forever and a day, right? And so the most surprising thing was how much freedom and confidence he had in me and the other actors. You know, for me, he set the parameters and he said, you know, go and do this, go and, you know, this is what I would like. And then he just let me live in the world, just completely live in the world. And so, you know, I've worked with first-time directors before, and sometimes they can be extra precious and scared about like, making sure everything's perfect. So that was amazing. And the fact that he shot B-cam on his movie. Like, he shot B-cam on his movie. And then him as a person, just, he's got so much going on. It's nuts. Like, you know, DJ, because I was basically being a roadie for a while, you know. DJ, like, I'll tell you one thing, all right? I'll tell you one night, like, we went to a charity event where he was presenting something for the homeless or whatever like that. And that was like at 10, and it went on for hours, right? Then we went out to the after party for that for like an hour, and then he went to a DJ gig, and then he goes, Mel, we need to go and record this in the old studio. Like, we're gonna go and record some of your bits. And I was like, bro, it's 4 in the morning. Like, do you know what I mean? We've been going since like 6 p.m. But he just can go and go and go and go, you know. And music artists can just go and go and go and go. Like that's one of the things I learned about him as well. How much of a a music artist he is. He's so, like, music is the number one thing to me, and so he's such a music artist in the sense of just going. And I realize I've got a very luxurious life as an actor. Yeah. You know, 12-hour days. You know, a little break here and there. So like that's one of the things that's surprising. He's just a good guy. He really is. Like, the thing that people have fallen in love with about him is true. Yeah, he's a decent bloke.
What is the 1,000-yard stare?
1,000-yard stare. Let me choose someone. All right, this gentleman right there, he's got a 1,000-yard stare right in the back there. He's got a fantastic 1,000-yard stare. Just stares like.
And you learned this from Idris, right?
Yeah, he's got a 1,000-yard stare. But there's one which, and it's kind of ambiguous. And then I'll choose a young lady that, okay, boom, I'll be there. Ooh. How are you? You right? How you doing? You right?
Is that working for you?
Good. And it's an ambiguous stare. It's not saying, hey, I like you. It's just like, I see you. But sometimes looking in someone's eyes for that long when you don't know them is uncomfortable. So I kind of copied and pasted that for the performance. I was like, I'm going to take that. He's got that 1,000-yard stare.
I love that.
Yeah.
And we do have another question.
Hello.
This is an online question. You were involved in theater at a young age. What advice do you have for aspiring actors or theater students?
Wow. It's a great question.
Right, you did Oliver as a kid, right?
I did so much, man. When I was 6, I did Oliver in the West End. I worked with Michael Jackson when I was 11 years old. I've just been in the business since a kid. You have to love it, right? And a good friend of mine says, as an actor, you get kicked in the balls for a living. You know what I mean? Which means you just have to keep trying to figure out whether or not how much you love it and how much you can keep getting up from rejection. And also, it's a nonsensical business. So you could have put your 10,000 hours in and it not work out and immediately, or you could have just come into the fray and it just go boom. So that's one of the things you have to contend with within yourself, it's taken me much work, Maze Runner, Sensei, all this stuff to be here with a film like this, So that's something that I really just try and find your own groove and peace of mind within a business that is not all on you, whether you can make it or not. Yeah.
I think that's great advice for everyone, too. It's like, find something that you love doing. And when I watched this, I could tell that you loved it.
It's definitely one of my
You literally
favorite roles.
became D.
Yeah.
And seeing that sort of commitment definitely came through in the film. So I think viewers are really going to love this. If you guys want to check out Yardie, it hits theaters on Friday, March 15th. Give it up for Aml Ameen.
Thank you.